Hey, this is the Spaniard. Good morning, everybody. Hey, don't go anywhere because coming up here, I have a special guest. We're going to be talking about churchgoers, and we're going to talk about this how this guest is really making a difference in his community. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Hey, good morning, America. This is the Spaniard keeping it tight, and I'm broadcasting live from Red Zone, the Green Zone, and everywhere in between. Welcome to Friday. It is Friday, April 10th. Man, we are knee deep in April. So, welcome. Grab your coffee, grab your latte, grab your tea, whatever you got, gather around because I have a special guest today. Please welcome, he is a licensee in the Christian Reformed denomination. Please welcome Josh Dykstra to the show.
Morning, Spaniard.
Hey, good morning, brother. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Now, for us, for the viewers out there watching or listening, that name may sound familiar. He has contributed to the show here on Monday Motivation and on the Friday Night Roundtable. His comments are just spectacular with good facts. So if you see him on the show or you see his comments, he is the man behind all the wonderful information that we receive. So welcome to the show, Josh. How are things going in your neck of the woods?
Oh, pretty good. I'm loving the state of the weather right now, going from cold to warm. So, absolutely loving the sunshine too.
Yeah, spring is definitely in the air.
hmm
So, like I mentioned earlier here, the topic that is kind of hitting the airwaves right now is social distancing, and people that are trying to do their best, and then there are some that really aren't following that. And one of the concerns was churchgoers, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, before we begin, explain to the listeners what is a licensee in Christian Reformed denomination?
As a licensee of the Christian Reformed denomination, I'm basically a pastor without the official title. So I can lead services, I can preach. I have been able to do sort of the ins and outs of pastoral work, counseling, and the like. But I am not formally hired by a church yet, and I've not been ordained or given that official title yet.
Gotcha. All right. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been involved with the church or pastoring?
Oh man. Um, so I started official education probably, oh man, it's probably been 7 years ago. Um,
Okay.
yeah, that's when I officially started seminary, went there for a few years. I've been doing internships, some counseling sessions, volunteer work since then. And I'm sort of an itinerant preacher, waiting for that opportunity to kind of pop up.
Right on. Right on. Well, cool. Well, the reason why I got you here on the show to help me out here with this is to shed some light on the social distancing when it comes to churches and conducting masses here. Now, there's been a couple stories here in Louisiana. I guess there was a couple churches there, and in Florida there was a mega church, and I guess a pastor was arrested. First, what is the first question I have for you is this is well, let me word this so I don't come off harsh or anything. Is this wise of these church leaders to still conduct services during this time of when people should stay at home?
Thank you for wording that carefully. Um,
Yeah.
in in my opinion, it is not
Mhm.
wise.
Okay.
I understand where they're coming from.
Right.
In First Thessalonians, it tells us, or sorry, in Hebrews, it tells us, do not neglect the coming together of the saints. Basically, don't neglect church.
Yeah.
We're told that it's a very important part of daily life, and there are people that have been going to church every Sunday for the last 60, 70, 80 years. It's a part of their
Right.
normal routine. So
Exactly.
for
Yep.
something to instantly go from part of the daily routine to basically illegal, it's very hard on some people.
Mm.
Um, at the same time, however, the necessary distancing. Um, it's it's something where we in the church or even religious sphere of things, and it's because it's even beyond churches. Um, it's difficult because we're a community. We are taught that we are the family of God, and like other families and like other organizations, you feel for one another. You smile when you smile together. You cry together. There's that bond of fellowship that happens, and to not have that for in my instance, it's now been a month. Um,
Wow. Yeah.
and and this past Sunday was Palm Sunday, and this coming Sunday is Easter. So it's a very important time of the year, and we're not even going to be allowed to meet together for that. So
Yeah.
it is something where there is that desire to come together, but at the same time, we also need to understand the risks for
Yeah.
the proximity of one to another.
Gotcha. Now, what are you doing, or your church's organization? Uh, what are you guys doing differently to kind of satisfy or to bring balance to both that, the need for fellowship and togetherness, and yet trying to stay safe? What have you guys found, or what are you guys doing?
So my church, and I'm speaking about the church that I attend, I am a member, so I am part of the congregation of Cottage Grove Christian Reformed Church in South Holland, Illinois. We are not meeting together person to person in the sanctuary. However, we are doing live Facebook Live videos. So we are able to broadcast at our normal times. Normally we would have church at 9:30 in the morning and 5:30 in the evening, and we are able to start the videos at those times, so people sitting in their homes can still sort of have that regimen, that schedule, and they know exactly when it's going to start. It's the same time as church normally starts.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. One of the things I wanted to highlight, and that's the reason why I really wanted you on the show, was I didn't realize. Well, let me back up just a little bit. During this pandemic, this crisis that we're undergoing, we've made a lot of changes, right? That's typical. But the thing that makes this more, I think, in my opinion, that makes it more easy to swallow and to cope with, is having a right support, right? I mean, having a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, a loved one, family members, a roommate, somebody. If you're sheltering in place and you have somebody there to support you, I could see it could be a little bit bearable. However, there might be those people who may not have that support system, and perhaps this fellowship, like you mentioned, that's coming together. Is that what you're talking about when we're saying, there are people who are still that may not have that support, and church is one way to get that?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that we as a church, it says right in the book of James that true religion is helping widows and orphans in the time of their need. And if a pandemic isn't a time of need, honestly, I don't know what you're believing then. So there's this desire that we should have, at least speaking from a Christian perspective. There's a desire that we should want to help those that are A, less fortunate, but also B, maybe they're not necessarily financially less fortunate, but maybe they're the loneliness is starting to creep in. Those of the community that even have mental health difficulties, or that have some sort of even just they don't have a support structure outside of meeting at church, or having someone that comes over once a week, and now they can't even do that because of the COVID regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know there are other churches that are recording messages or going on Facebook Live every single day, and sending that out to their members. They will send links to like a YouTube link to a message that they have to just kind of say, here's a scripture reading, here's a small message to help you through your day. And if you need someone to call, here's our phone number. By all means, please give us a call. Let us know. It's one of the ways we want to keep in contact with people. Just because we can't meet in person throughout the pandemic doesn't mean that this needs to destroy the bonds that we have forged throughout years. And we want to make sure that we come back from this even stronger than before.
That's wonderful. Wonderful words of wisdom right here. In case you're just joining us, this is Josh Dykstra. He is a licensee in the Christian Reformed denomination. He is on the show to kind of help and shed some light on those who are still wishing to to still keep that Sunday tradition of going to church and still keeping within safe regards to their health for themselves and their loved ones. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Now I want to dive in a little bit into, you mentioned earlier you haven't been able to be at church for almost a month. Now, aside from not going to church, has this affected your work life?
Yeah. So I'm a licensee, which means I'm not formally a pastor at a particular place. So I'm what you call bivocational. I have two callings. I have a work life and I have a pastoral life. My pastoral life now includes counseling and more over the phone counseling. And my messages before, I used to preach to a congregation from a pulpit and have 100 or 200 people in front of me. I just delivered a message last Sunday night where I was preaching to a camera no bigger than a webcam. And it's one of those things where, as a pastor, I like when I preach to a congregation, I look at the faces of people and I see if they're getting it or if they're not getting it, if I need to explain things or not. And I can't do that with just a webcam in front of me. It's very, very difficult to feed off of the energy of the people in front of you. And I can't do that. So it makes it a little difficult for me. My other vocation, though, is as a soccer referee. And as a soccer referee, club sports have been canceled for the foreseeable future. I'm a IHSA high school referee. I referee high school in Illinois. And all those games, because school is out, we haven't had any of those games. Now, optimistically, they're talking about maybe having a playoffs and a state final in June. But there's no hope that that's even going to happen. So all the referees that maybe do this as a full-time job, they haven't been getting paid, and I haven't either.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's man, everybody's feeling this. Even referees, everywhere there's everyone's feeling it. So, what are some of your? You mentioned you counsel others. What are some of your top 3 words or advice tips on dealing with the shelter in place and getting through this? And like I said, hopefully soon, we'll be able to get back to whatever normalcy we can get back to. But in the meantime, what are some tips that you could share?
The first thing I would love to say to anyone listening to this, whether you're at home or abroad or on the workplace, is don't give up hope. Don't stop pressing for the hope that yes, there will be a return to normal. That there is something more than just a day in and day out drudgery. And hand in hand with that, I would say, if you can, go outside when you're available to. Don't just stay cooped up in your house. Even if it's going to a park, sitting in the parking lot and just kind of getting out of your car and, walking around for a little bit. You don't have to necessarily be near other people, but getting out into creation, seeing the trees, seeing the flowers that are starting to pop up, getting that reset rather than just staying at home all the time. it's done wonders for me, I know. And probably the third thing is, don't be afraid to reach out if you need it. I know that,
yeah.
it's something that, maybe has been sort of stigmatized in the past, but there are always times where everyone can be weak and can feel weak, or can feel even conflicted at times, or just needs that extra help to get through the day. And by all means, call someone. Call a friend, call a family member, call your pastor, your imam or your rabbi, depending on what your belief is. But call someone you can trust. Call a friend. Even if it's just a Facebook message saying, "Hi, how you doing? I'm having a rough day today." Just just contact with somebody. FaceTiming someone.
Yeah.
Even though we can't be face to face, I mean, obviously you and me, Spaniard, we're not in the same place right
Yeah.
now, but seeing you, it's this. There's still this bond of brotherhood and fellowship.
There you
So
go.
by all means, if you can extend that either through Facebook or through YouTube or whatever you can do, um, get those bonds still going. Just because we can't see face to face doesn't mean that you stop being friends.
Beautifully said, Josh. Thank you so much. And finally, I'm getting, man, my switchboard is lighting up with comments. They are digging your flag behind your shoulder there. What is the
Oh yeah,
significance
that
of
one
your
there.
SEALs, U.S. Navy SEALs flag? Tell us about that.
The U.S. Navy SEALs hold a close personal spot in my heart. My uncle was part of the U.S. Navy SEALs for a long time. He was the former commander of SEAL Team 7, and he was a Navy SEAL instructor for over a decade. He was
Wow.
in Coronado for years.
Yeah.
I've seen a little bit of what he's done to his recruits, we'll call them. But man, I I have the utmost honor and respect for those gentlemen that make it through there.
Oh yeah, there you go. Right on. Beautiful. Beautiful. So there you have it, folks. We had Josh Dykstra on the show, and again, you may be able to catch him or some of his comments on either Monday Motivation or the Friday Night Roundtable. He is one of our greatest I don't know contributors and assets to the those two shows with his knowledge. So I want to thank you, Josh, again for accepting our invitation to the show. And man, best of wishes to you, and good luck. Again, those were beautiful words of wisdom, and hopefully someone is able to hear that and pass that along. So, hey, so there you have it, folks. Thanks for tuning in, not tuning out, and hey, don't forget to tune in tonight, where we'll have a special Good Friday edition of the Friday Night Roundtable, where I hope most of the crew will be here, since you can't really go anywhere else. Where else are you going to go? It is an interactive show, so make sure you tune in tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, right here on Blacksheep Bravo. Keep it tight. Spaniard out.